for 9 to 5. That was not my calling in life, and I didn't even think about it. It was not my lot in life. So by the time I was 13, I knew I wanted to be a massage therapist, and I was very just headstrong. That's what I'm doing. I found my husband somewhere along the lines, and I told him, by the way, I'm doing this. You can come along for the journey. If not, fine, it's okay. But this is where I am going. You have found me mid-journey.
Did he come along for the free massages?
Ah? No, we have a very clear line about this is business, this is home life, by the way. You don't gray those lines. Yes. Husband is husband, work is work. So you don't mess those lines. So I didn't want to go into those spaces because at least in the time when I was at the point of looking or thinking about really working, I knew my incessant questions. And I ask a lot of questions because how do you learn if you don't ask questions? So I ask questions about everything, anything and everything all the time. And people are looking at me, and to be honest, I still do not understand why asking questions is an issue. So my very neurodivergent brain is going, "But I don't know. How am I supposed to know if I don't ask?" So normal workplaces, it was seen to be very childlike, not in the innocent way, but childish. And it was seen as annoying, and that I wasn't trying to figure things out for myself, and I wasn't trying to handle my own workload. I was just trying to look the weaponized incompetence kind of an idea. I don't know. See, you just tell me. But it's an actual fact me trying to do my job and do my job as best as I possibly could. The more I understand it, the better I can do it.
Yeah.
So allowance for understanding that sometimes an incessant question is someone really seeking to understand, and it's not putting something off. It's not, don't know what they think it is, but it's not those things. It's someone trying to figure out how they can truly do a job. And something that may seem obvious to you, it's not obvious to me. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
So if I don't have a shut-off valve, I can talk until the cows want to go home.
That's us.
And I will not know, because I will not see the social cues, that you have long ago checked out of this conversation.
Wait. So even when people like yawn or something, okay.
I will think you are tired. So social cues, those quiet ones that people tell me, Amanda, I'm done with this conversation.
Okay.
Be blunt with me, because I need that. Genuinely. This read between the lines. I'm saying something, but I'm saying something. I will
So
never get the
subtext.
something.
So subtext is not
It goes over my head like a lead
okay.
balloon. I don't.
Okay.
It never. I will never understand it. If you like the dress I'm wearing, tell me I like the dress you're wearing, and it's that simple. So what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
By the way, with me, I am blunt. So I will say, I don't know about this. I have no clue. I've never done it. And you'll just know. But I need that blunt.
So that's definitely a challenge, of course, in neurotypical workspaces, because we do a lot of subtext.
Mhm.
You come into the office, oh, what a bright day. And, someone just being sarcastic. Why are you wearing bright clothes in July?
Yeah.
And July is supposed to be our winter. So I get it.
You don't get it at all. So being blunt, being direct, this subtext of, oh, I'm just supposed to understand office dynamics. No, The longest I have worked at a 9 to 5 was 1 year when I was putting myself through now my training for my massage therapy. And I worked as what they call a sandwich artist, which is a fancy way of saying I worked at a fast food restaurant that just makes sub sandwiches. I don't know why they insist on putting fancy language, but and the interactions that I had with my colleagues, I'm still one. I look at back at whoops, I insulted them. I was just thinking we were having a good conversation. Sorry, I'm also still doing the thing. I don't have a shut off valve. I'm hogging the mic. Thank you. You pass on the mic to Aaron. I have to stop you guys. Okay, so this is for you, Harun. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask you what have been your barriers and opportunities in terms of joining the workforce to be able to pursue your career and even enjoy it.
Um, First of all, so I did film and TV production. Then I did just a short course on photography. Then after that, uh, same with her. I never thought about going somewhere to work and stuff like that. So doing film and TV production, you're introduced to nearly nearly 90 something percent of everyone who goes and does that course goes into freelancing. So that was my first option. Um, Even just the backstory, even before even just starting going to the school, was the school I went to. Um, at the point that I entered the school, it was what it was owned by one person. At that point, it was called Jamhuri Film and TV Production, which changed to now the famous ADMI. Yeah, for the people who know that one, now it changed. So for at that point in time, I remember I did a video just explaining myself and my challenges and all that. And the owner just said, okay. So he did the part of now explaining to the lecturers, this is um, this is the student that we have, and you can accommodate him. So going through that, okay, so that point in time, at least for there are people who I didn't know I can advocate for myself to actually do what oral exams. I still did the writing and all that. But the funny thing is, even if I got the marks that I got, I mean, with school I can't remember. Yeah, I got an E, a D, or any, those ones I can't remember. May I just know me I went through. I just went through. I can't remember. Hmm? So um so the funny thing is the people who are getting good marks would be someone like, hey, how does this thing work? Because like practical anything, that one 100%. Hmm? You know, when like a simple example is like let's say I've never touched a certain brand of camera and they get it here. The thing I came to realize with me being dyslexic, and most of the time, immediately you feel bombarded, there's nothing you're going to do. And the most important thing that I learned, even when when you're feeling fine, you're supposed to do something. I look for how to become. Because if I'm not calm, we are not going to do anything. The more relaxed I am, so these days, you people, things are going haywire. Okay, let them continue going haywire. I'll calm down, so we can actually do this. Because the thing is, the more the more you're feeling rushed, the more you're doing nothing. When you feel less rushed, the more you do something to its excellence. And the thing that I actually came to learn with being dyslexic is you have to take more effort from yourself, because the thing is you get to a point that, okay, I'm dyslexic. It's a very good excuse. Oh, I can't read, I can't do this. I came to learn. I came to learn, even if I don't like reading. Came to learn, you have to read. Mbele ama nyuma, you have to read. Because it, even going through the film school and stuff, the thing was, one of my best classes, because of there were two teachers, was script writing. Because there's a teacher who was like, I don't think he used to prepare. He didn't know anything like that. Because I think he was just good at what he used to do. So he just come to class, he knows, oh, we're doing this. And the way he would engage you, the way you, that's now, at least with me, with context and subtext, I get it, because the thing about script writing, they tell you, even this, when you're in film, you tell, for you to write a script, you have to go and observe people. What is this person doing? What is that person doing? Like that. Even before, sometimes you're like, okay, I will not say the person's name because they're here.
Spill the tea.
I I called somebody and I forgot to do something they asked me to do. So I was busy doing something else, and I job. Then they send me, oh, do this to my picture and stuff like that. Told me I forgot. So I called the person. The person is like, hmm. Oh, I didn't do your work. And life is just interesting as you go on. It's one of the things that you really need, going to now being an entrepreneur, working in a workspace, is you really need to work on your confidence. Because at some point you'd go, for me, if I'm going somewhere in a group that you're supposed to read something, I feel like, at some point you need a little bit of accommodation to know what's before that. Because most of the time, if you're just ambushed, you're like, your head just goes somewhere else, and for me, I just walk out.
So, what I'm gathering is that one, you do not work well under pressure generally. However, you still have to push yourself a little bit more to get to what you want, whether in the workforce or in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And three, no sudden changes, no ambushes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing I learned about entrepreneurship as being dyslexic is, and I'm just still learning it, is if you're an entrepreneur, first of all, in an entrepreneur in the creative industry, where you need to work with corporates and other people, it is very important for you to know who are the right people in your life to help you to maneuver such kind of things. Because I mean, if I'm working with any government institution, the paperwork I need just to enter the door
It's
is
another
crazy.
world.
So knowing who you're going to hold hands with to be able to even go through hurdles. Yeah.
All right. So, Lucy, this is for you. The cultural aspects of, being atypical, neurodivergence. Not divergent, diverse. So, how have you been able to? Because yes, there's a workplace dynamics, but then now in the social spaces, the cultural spaces, how do you manage, and how would you maybe encourage another person to be able to navigate our worlds in that way?
One of my challenges is decoding what you've just asked me. And that's a reality for us.
Yes.
But if I've heard you right, is how do
I manage
Yeah.
at the workplace
Yeah. And
So-
also outside the work.
and outside the workplace
Yes.
as a dyslexic.
Mm.
I think naturally for me, I developed coping mechanisms. You look at the neurotypical and how they work, and you know very well it doesn't work for you the way you know. How will I put it? It's with me. It's like I see through things. I see through people. I read energies. I feel energies. I walk into a space and I can tell here is a good space for me. Here, no, I get out. As she said, blunt. I'm very blunt, unfortunately, and sometimes I offend people, and I don't know why they get offended, but um, I'm just being real. Yeah, I'm okay if you're blunt with me. I don't feel bad. Yeah, so anyway, it's a thing. You're born like that. In fact, I keep telling people at the workplace, I think I was not born with shame. Haibu, sinanga, I don't know.
So you have audacity.
I have audacity.
Yes.
And it's not pride or anything.
No.
Si madharau.
Yeah.
It's just the way I am. So anyway, at the workplaces, you realize there are some things they do, like read some long emails. Like where I work, we do new things like every day. And as you heard, I was in customer management, and you have to understand that product and deliver to your team and to the customer. And when other people are taking 5, 10, 15 minutes to understand the new product, me, I need a day or two or a week. You know, because I'm looking at you like, how did you get it? I mean, those concepts.
Yeah.
But when I get it, I'm smarter than those ones who got it immediately. So how do I cope? Cover up.
So
I
like
smile.
masking.
Yeah.
Okay.
I pretend I know. I know nothing. So whatever they say, I copy until I get it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll just be like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, it works like that. It's a good product. I'm like, whoa. But eventually, I will get it. So it's just you develop coping mechanisms of to survive. You know, I don't know how I can explain it, but people never get to know. You mask it. Yeah, but it's not a good thing. I wish uh, managers and leaders would understand neurodiversity and be able to spot it so that I don't have to work so hard to get anything. Because honestly, even if I take 2 days to understand that concept, I put in so much effort. Could I don't want to say die, but it's really it's too much. So it's basically coping mechanisms at work. One thing that would have gotten me fired, I know, is time management.
Okay.
It's a thing with dyslexics, and Esther calls it executive dysfunction. Is it? So it's not like I'm doing nothing. I'm not getting late because I'm doing nothing. I'm actually doing something. But my brain has no way of telling I'm running late. To date, I've never understood.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm always fighting with my partner. And yeah, so at the workplace, of course, I use text to speech, as Zachary presented here. A lot of text to speech because you have to deliver, as he said. At the end of the day, yeah, kuna kubembelezana. You have to deliver. So I've employed they're called assistive technology. Yes, AT works for me. I have to read using text to speech all the time. And when I hear, I get it faster. Okay. But if you expect me to read a book or a brochure, give me 2 days.
So what audiobooks are you reading now?
Honestly, I don't do a lot of reading. But watch a lot of documentaries. I love to learn new things.
All right.
Yeah, books, not really, but documentaries. Okay. Another thing I do at work is I do a lot of self-advocacy through storytelling.
Yes.
Storytelling. I have told my story over and over again. I'm pushing it down their throats that there's this thing and you people need to understand it. Thank you.
All right. So pass the mic to her. So I wanted to ask you, because you said from the time you were 13, you just knew this 9 to 5 is not your jam. Have you been mentored? Have you been handheld? And have you passed it forward, paid it forward in one way or another?
Yeah, I'd say I'd been mentored. I don't know if I'd use the word hand holding. That sounds a bit too much like I was babied.
No, 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 no. No, not like how Harun put it, like to
Yeah.
open doors for you.
Yeah, but definitely mentored. My just like a lot of people have said here today, my mother was by far my biggest advocate. Um, I was diagnosed in Kenya
Mm.
at a time when learning disorders, disabilities were not well known. They were not well understood. They weren't even well known and understood in the States at the time that I was diagnosed, even. We've come a long way from understanding um, even what I was diagnosed with. So my mom, as a result, decided that she was going to do all of the research. And she has an entire bookshelf and a bookcase in her house that is all books on ADHD, well, it wasn't called neurodivergence at the time, but on just ADHD and different thinking and learning disabilities and learning disorders and all of these things. And when I say it's a literal bookcase, it is actually a bookcase because she's like, I'm going to understand my daughter and I'm going to help her because there's no one else out here to help her.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything like shadow teachers or anything like that. I was mainstreamed. So my mom rode the backs of all of my teachers. And absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. My mom is the best. I think she might be watching this. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
They still, my parents still live in Kenya. So every step of the way, my parents walked with me. My mom was like, you know, you don't have to go to university. I did, but you don't have to. You don't have to do a 9 to 5. You can find what works for you. And, she's talking about masking. I have been me for so long that I stopped masking a while ago because it's too tiring. And I kind of took the approach of if you like me when I'm not masking, great. If you don't, it's also fine. We don't have to like each other.
Yeah.
We don't have to get along. It's fine. But I'm going to be me, and I'm interesting, I'm weird, and I'm quirky, but if it hadn't have been for my parents walking with me, if it hadn't been for them telling me, Amanda, you can be and you can do whatever it is you want to do in life, you just have to be willing to put in the work. And I grew up with that in my head my whole life. So that's been the foundation of everything I do, whether it's my parenting, whether it's how I work, whether it's just anything. It's I can do it. I just have to be willing to put in the work.
And for you, have you been able to pay it forward? Are you mentoring anybody? Are you carrying others along the journey?
Yeah, very interestingly, just recently found myself in these spaces. I didn't put myself there. I'm just here.
Well done. Well done. Well, yes. So for you, Harun, I want to ask you, what would be the practical strategies that you would suggest to employers, or whether in mainstream corporate or even in like the cottage industries or MSMEs, to include, to have an inclusivity plan for differently talented people who could join their workplaces?
Um, I think first of all, even just before going there,
Mm-hmm.
is us as a community who are just here right now, be able to make sure that people, if people are not aware of what is there, first making sure they understand what is there. Then from there, um, if somebody understands what is dyslexic, um, and for us who are dyslexic in this room out there, whoever is watching, the number one thing would be for us to be able to go and say, okay, I'm dyslexic. If there's a task, I would need more time. Then from there, employers experiencing people who are dyslexic, then from there would now merge hands and say, okay, how long do you think you can be able to do this task? Just yeah, from there. And also when this, not just dyslexic alone, the ones who are also autistic, um, everything starts, it can start privately, but when government does it in a big way, so it also goes into the private sector. Because a long time ago, I used to ask myself, hey, Kenyans are so rich. Um, they can, the private sector can be able to do this. Then I came to realize without government, the private sector, some companies wouldn't even be able to survive. So this, in a way, the first employer, which is government, with the biggest working force, is the government is here, and for it to now just to join hands with different players like Bloom and stuff to be able to create a template of how to help employers and just be basically the word inclusive. How can I be able to help you? By employers just asking, how can I be able to help you? Then from me understanding how I can be able to help you, we can go forward.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask one last question to each and every one of you as sort of like a parting shot. So hold on to the mic. When you give your parting shot, you'll hand it to Amanda and back to Lucy. No, Lucy, in fact, you have a mic here. Yeah. So obviously, there's been challenges and barriers and struggles, and of course, opportunities and breakthroughs, which is amazing. And I think even the breakthrough of discovery and then being in this space is a big deal. What would an ideal or futuristic or idealistic workspace or workforce that is inclusive look like for you?
An inclusive workspace.
Yes, the ideal.
The ideal workspace.
Yes.
The ideal workspace would be where I would not be ashamed for people to know that I'm dyslexic. Um, f- that that for me it would be basically if anyone is dyslexic, if anyone is autistic, and all that. Um, for how not even the employer, the people you work with, how they treat you. For me, it's easier for me than most because it's easier for me than Lucy because I'm an entrepreneur. She has to maybe her team somebody new comes and stuff like that. But for me, I would just say it's easy on my end. But I am usually not ashamed for people to know that I'm dyslexic. If you go to my Instagram page, dyslexic photographer, and like
Let's clap.
mm, when coming to think about it, the more proud you are of who you are, the more you make people know, the more it is easier for you to navigate everywhere. Because for me, all the friends that I have know that I'm dyslexic. Like if you're around me, you'll definitely know that I'm dyslexic. Mm.
All right. And dear Amanda?
Very similar kind of a thing. It'd be creating a space where when I'm talking about myself or down the road when my son who has dyslexia is in a career space, when talking about himself, it's I like cars. I really like this football team. I'm dyslexic, and I also like to read these kinds of books. And it's a thing about you. It's not defining. It's not, you know, I have dyslexia, not I am dyslexic. It's not a defining thing. And for it to be a place where, because with dyslexia, ADHD, autism, all of these, they're highly individual when it comes to the kind of tools that somebody needs, that your employer or colleagues are able to sit down and be like, okay, what do you need? How can we meet you? And it'd be a normal conversation, and that this is something that HR is, trained to work with and understand. This is not just something that we do because, well, we got to deal with these people, but that we're just part of the workforce. We're not the separate special group. We're just part of the employees, and just like their mental health and their consideration needs to be taken into account, so does ours, just in a different way. Mhm.
You see?
For me, it would be an ideal space would be an inclusive space, like she said, where this is normal. Being dyslexic is normal, just a different type of normal. Where we are supported, assistive technology is in place, reasonable accommodations are in place, where I'm allowed to thrive and be who I am, and most especially where my two dyslexic sons can walk in and be valued for their strengths.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harun. Oh, Harun wanted to say something else.
And because this is the first time that I've been in a room with so many dyslexic, I would just ask for all the dyslexics in this room to stand.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, for me, I would ask for if you can create a WhatsApp group. So, who would I give this job?
Lucy.
Yes, yes, to collect the names and put them in a group,
It's your birthday anyway.
in a WhatsApp group. If you can, tupatane kando pahali.
Thank
Asante.
you. Thank you
And
so much.
let me finish by saying I've noticed something about the two that also is here. She's dyslexic. Her sons are dyslexic.
ADHD.
Uh-huh. Then
My son is
the dyslexic.
Yes.
For me, in my family, it's 3 generations: my grandfather, my mother, and me. Yeah. Yes.
My grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my father, my two brothers, me, my son, and we suspect my daughter.
I suspect my mother because she also got an excellence in English. So my mother, me, and my children.
Wow. So you can just see from this conversation that dyslexia and neurodiversity is not abstract. It's actually with people you know and you care about. So really inclusivity is not going to be a thing that we do. It's actually a thing that we should live and breathe and practice. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you so much.
Sasa kwa sababu photographer ako hapa, nani nawapigia picha? Huu mwingine, haya, wapiga picha haraka 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 haraka. Now, as we are waiting for that photo, can we all be upstanding? Kidogo DJ aliniangusha. Sasa tungekuwa tunafanya hivi tu, lakini ni kama niko peke yangu kwa hiyo story. I'm just on my own. So, are you ready? This is going to be fun. Yes? Yes? Now, Do as I say, not as I. Do as I say, not as I. Aya, sawa. Si mnajua head, shoulder, knees and thank you. Mko ready? Aya, na sisi wote tunaimba head, shoulders, knees and look at all of you. Look at all of you. Your knees. Hey, surely guys. Your knees. This is where your toes are. Have you just confirm with your neighbor that's where your toes are? Just confirm. There's no way that's where your toes are. Ah, we try again. As I said, do as I, not as I. And head. Esther, surely. 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 Even Hash is at my head. Knees and toes, knees and toes, knees and. Really? Really? We try again. One last time. I want to see whose knees. Let me see where your knees are. People. It is your head, your shoulders, your knees, and your toes. Are you so we know where they are? We are certain. Are you sure? Very sure. Let us try again. Head, shoulder, knees. Are not serious. There's no way you're serious. Hii ni ya mwisho kabisa. I promise, the last one. I won't do this again. I'm done. Just know where your things are. Just know. I won't. If we get to the northern years, you people, what are you going to point at? Surely. Okay, we try. We start. We know where we're going. Hi, let's go. Head, the knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulder, knees and toes. Eyes, mouth. Please, as you step out, guys, yeah, please just confirm. Just confirm. That is all I will say. Confirm. Confirm. Just confirm. Okay. It is important. It is important. We take these things for granted. Just confirm. Confirm. Now, I know we're supposed to do breakouts, but there's a session here that was felt was so important, we couldn't split the team. So we thought it wise that we just put all ourselves here instead of doing the breakouts, and we just have it as a whole, and then we can have our tea break. And of course, Nescafe is still there. And once we do our tea break, we will come back for the awards, and we have a fantastic, amazing, great surprise for all of you. Trust me, you are absolutely going to love this. Oh, she's not running to me, thank God. So, we're ready for a surprise? I promise you, me, I don't disappoint people. This is high grades. It's a surprise. It's fantastic. Yeah? Nobody's getting a leakage. Nobody. You won't believe. Trust me, you will not believe it. You will not believe it. When you hear C, you will not believe it. Yeah? When you hear see, I will add, and smell, you will not believe it. You will not. You will not. Believe me, you. Aki me, I tell you. Me personally, myself, Aki, I don't lie. It is the truth. Aki. Can cheat, can die. Can cheat, can die. Yeah? Aki. Yeah? Can cheat, can die. So, I'd like to call upon Suruchi, kindly be in the building. Thank you so much, my love. I know we're supposed to do breakouts, but you will be heading this particular breakout. It's called Understanding IEPS. And I know this is very, very important. So all of us are really going to be in here. For teachers, for educators, for everybody who is in this room, we felt it was really, really important for us to be able to do this. Now, again, if you need your coffee, the coffee is available. Some snacks are also available, but we're also going to have a tea break, and then we can come back and have our awards. You should see the way I'm ready for these awards. Friend, even the lights are going to do the thing. Hey, you are not ready. I've been told to be your entertainment. So now, hey, hokey pokey. Paulo na Sila, waliomba. Paulo na Sila, waliomba. Milango ya gereza ikafunguka. Milango ya gereza ikafunguka. Na sisi na sisi wasichana tukiomba ya gereza itafunguka milango. What does that even mean? No, we are singing it, but what does that even mean? Right? What am I doing? Uh-huh. Eh. Oh, guy, wawa. They don't understand. So now, let me explain. So, we old people, they are older people. They are millennials, they are fossils, they are artifacts. I'm not pointing fingers. They are relics. It's hard to point. It's going to be bad. And me, I don't want to be caught in this business. I can't. I'm a nice person. I love Jesus. Guys, yeah? I love Jesus. So, we had two things. One, we had one dance style. It was very simple. Or this one. Yeah? So even when our president used to come, then we had one president anyway. For a very long time. Just one. And he gave us a lot of money all the time. And milk. Guys, we used to drink milk for free. I don't know how you guys are surviving in these schools. But us guys had milk. And those milk packets, I don't know whether you guys used to receive the ones that used to have ice. Ah, la, 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 that one was for group of schools. Now you see, you can tell. What were Nairobi? These ones are group of schools. They used to receive the ones that have ice. And then the rest of you just receive milk. Okay, I'm sorry, the rest of you. God help you. So, we are good. Hey, come entertainment ni ngumu hivi. This thing is hard, man. You can't do stand-up comedy. So churi. Kindly join us on stage and thank you so much, my love.
Thank you. Thank you for teaching me my fifth Swahili word, which is shweli.
Right.
Which is what I was thinking when the internet was taking a long time to load up my presentation. Shweli. Did I use it right? Okay. Shwali. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm sure I will get a timer going at some point because I want to make sure I keep to time. My name is Saruchi Keenhill. I'm here with the U.S. delegation, and I'm here to talk to you today about understanding IEPs, or individualized education programs. And I think it was Miss Elizabeth who asked about collaboration between families and the school. And so I hope that this session provides some practical ways and also some mindsets around how that collaboration can take place. So here we go. So we're going to talk today about understanding IEPs and specifically from the context of supporting students who have dyslexia. A lot of these principles apply across different types of neurodivergence. However, examples I'll give today will all be around students with dyslexia. Next slide. So these are the subtopics that I will quickly take us through today. First and foremost, we'll start out with just grounding in IEPs. What does it mean? And also regrounding in a definition of dyslexia. Then we'll move into key components of effective IEPs. One of those key components you'll see is goals. Measurable annual goals. And so we'll actually take a deep dive. We'll zoom in on the individualized goal setting. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about implementation and about that collaboration across the caregivers and the school. So starting out with that introduction to IEPs and to the use of IEPs for students with dyslexia.
IEP stands for Individualized Education Program, and I want to focus on that word individualized because this is something that it's a contract between an individual with dyslexia and their family, the caregiver, and the school that is to provide the supports and the specialized instruction for the student with dyslexia. So an individualized education program, it's like a contract where, in the States, it's a legally binding contract. But there are principles contained within that apply across contexts, across countries. So the individualized education program takes into account what a student as an individual is already capable of, what are their strengths, what are their targeted focus areas for growth, what is the way in which we will get them to meet their potential, especially with the language-based literacy skills that they will have trouble with. So things like spelling and decoding, there might be a secondary issue with comprehension. All of that is reflected in the individualized education program. You may have, in my experience, before I went into professional development for educators and leaders, I was myself a special education teacher and then administrator. And I've worked with dozens and dozens, hundreds even, of students with dyslexia. However, even though the diagnosis was the same across all of those students, the individualized education program for each of those students was different because each of those students were different. So it's individualized. It should reflect who the student is, what they're capable of now, and where we would like to take them during the period of the next year in the case of the annual individualized education program. So that's a little bit about IEPs. Thank you. Next is a little bit about dyslexia. So I know that we've been talking a lot about dyslexia for the last 2 days, but just to re-ground us in a definition of dyslexia, as we prepare to talk about IEPs in the context of students with dyslexia. So dyslexia is a specific learning disability. This definition comes from the International Dyslexia Association. I would push that it doesn't have to be regarded a disability, but it is a specific language-based learning difference. It's neurobiological in origin. So the brain functioning, the way that the brain learns literacy in students with dyslexia is different. It's not that it is not able to be learned by students with dyslexia. It's just a different way that the brain interacts with learning literacy. And so we have to teach students in accordance with that neurobiological difference. It's characterized by difficulties with accurate and or fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. So essentially, the ability to connect the orthography or the symbols of written language with the sounds of spoken language is the specific area that students with dyslexia will have trouble acquiring, but that trouble is mitigated if we teach students in the way that their brains acquire literacy. So there is a science of reading, a way of teaching students with dyslexia that is aligned with how their brain acquires literacy. Typically, the difficulties with that connection between symbols and sounds results from a deficit in the phonological component of language. And that is often unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities. So these are students who will, on various measures, have typical cognition. It's not a cognitive issue. It is a difficulty with language-based literacy acquisition in spite of strong cognition. And while dyslexia primarily affects decoding and encoding, working with word recognition, there is potentially a secondary consequence where a student, because they're having less practice with reading text, they might then have some secondary difficulties with comprehension. And so we may have a student who is diagnosed with dyslexia has an individualized education program that focuses on phonological processing and decoding and encoding, and doesn't have anything about comprehension. When we have another student with dyslexia who, in addition to that phonological processing, decoding, encoding difficulty, they also have trouble with comprehension. That is something that resulted from not having as much exposure to reading. So that is just a very high level introduction. What I just explained could be a whole semester of graduate coursework, but that's a very quick overview of IEPs and dyslexia. So now I want to get into the key components of effective IEPs. And so first is the key component is that we have a fully comprehensive, balanced team of folks on that IEP, putting the individualized education program together and enacting that individualized education program. So required members of that team include at least one, and maybe more, special educators. So folks who can speak to their expertise is aligned with what the student needs in terms of their specialized instruction. Also, at least one regular education teacher. So students with dyslexia, their difficulties with literacy are in spite of otherwise normal cognition. And so these are not students, hopefully, who are being taken out of the general education classroom for the whole curriculum, for the whole day. They're hopefully getting the support that they need in an individualized setting, in addition to the regular education that they're receiving with their other peers who do not have a diagnosis like dyslexia. And so because of that, we want a regular education teacher, at least one, maybe more, to be present to also speak to that student's functioning in the general education classroom. We'd also have a school or district representative. That could be a special education coordinator or a school principal, head teacher. And then there's also someone who can interpret the instructional implication of the results of an evaluation. That can be another IEP team member. So when I was a special education teacher, I would also often sit in that role of being the interpreter of the most recent evaluation for special education. Required participants also include, from outside of the school, right, the caregivers, the parents. So this is really critical because you, as a caregiver, know your student better than anybody. So there are things that you will know about your students' relative strengths, the areas that you would like the school to work on with your student. What are your students' interests? Those are all things that we as parents are experts in. And so that representation at the IEP team meeting is absolutely critical. And this is not only for the design of the individualized education program, but also in the implementation, that communication back and forth. And you'll see in a little bit that we need to have, as educators, mechanisms for communicating with our families, the parents and other caregivers of the students, on how things are progressing in the school, and not just save it for a meeting that happens once a year, which is the IEP team meeting. And then finally, last on this slide, but certainly not least, in fact, most important, is the student. So the student, especially if they're a little bit older or if we're getting ready to talk about the post-secondary, what happens after school, after post-secondary, the student is a required member. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. There's one of the critical components of an effective IEP we talked about is the team. Next is the present levels of performance. And so this includes a summary of the most recent evaluation. In the States, the law says that students who have students with many different kinds of needs need to be reassessed on a every 3-year basis, a deep dive evaluation on the student. If it's for certain disabilities like an intellectual impairment, it would be every 2 years. But let's say you have a student with dyslexia, at least every 3 years, our law says that we have to do an evaluation. So the present levels of performance in an annual individualized education program would include a summary of the most recent evaluation results. Also, let's say that the most recent neuropsychological evaluation happened 2.5 years ago. We don't want to rely on those old numbers only. And so, in addition, every student would be tested at least once a year, and the summary of those recent assessments would also be included in that present levels of performance section. Also, progress towards current goals. So it's not just about where is a student starting out right now in relation to where they're heading, but also how has progress looked in the past year based on the interventions they've received. Is the student progressing? If they're progressing, let's keep that intervention going. If the student is making some progress, but we feel there are certain things that we could tweak and improve on, well, let's do that. If we thought at this time last year that there was an intervention that would be effective, that's not as effective as we hoped, and now we think we need to, based on recent information, try something different, then let's document that. So the present levels of academic achievement should not only include how is a student currently performing, but what has their progress looked like up until now based on interventions that they've received. And then strengths and needs related to the student's learning difference. And very importantly, parental concerns for enhancing the education of the student. So just as important as the performance levels on a given assessment is parents' input. And that's an example of how you can very practically contribute to your students' individualized education by being present at the IEP meeting and also giving input on all of these pieces for the development of the individualized education program. The measurable annual goals, as I mentioned, I'm going to give some examples of this in a little bit, but I just want to say that these goals should be aligned to those present levels. So we're not just documenting the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance so that they can just live on that paper and collect dust. It's actually to ensure that the goals that we design for the student education for the coming year, that is aligned to where they are now, the present levels, as well as aligned to the grade level standards or curriculum. So this is important. You might have a student as an educator who is, because of their dyslexia, not reading on grade level yet. That doesn't mean that we don't give them access to the general education curriculum. Again, their potential is very high. These students are able to learn to read and write, and there's nothing else about their cognition that keeps them from achieving at high levels. And so we want to ensure that we are aligning the goals to the students' present levels. We're not lowering the bar. We're making a plan for how to connect from where the student is now to where we want them to go. But we're not saying that this student, our expectation for this second grade student is kindergarten level by the end of the year. Because what that's going to do is that going to close the gap between where they are now and where they need to be? No, if we say that our goal for them is 2 grade levels behind what their age level is, then that gap is going to stay as they grow older. And so instead of lowering the bar, and often that's done out of love for our students, we don't want them to fail, right? But instead, we need to change our mindset and think about how do we bridge the gap between present levels and what the student's potential is, which is grade level standards. And also the measurable annual goals include a plan for how the student's progress toward each goal will be measured and when it will be reported to parents. Why? Because parents are an integral part of that IEP team. And while the special educator, the regular educator, the administrator, all of those school personnel may have great communication because they see each other every day, just because the parent does not work at the school does not mean that they are not entitled to that information. So plan for how often are we going to measure the student's progress, and how and when are we going to report that progress back to the important members of the team who are the caregivers. So the plan for reaching the annual goals, this is something that talks about the specialized services that the student will receive. And those specialized services have three purposes. One is to appropriately advance toward attaining the annual goals, to be involved in and make progress in the general education classroom, and to be educated and participate with other children with disabilities and non-disabled children in extracurricular and other non-academic activities. So the idea is that we are giving students the individualized support that they need while ensuring that we're not limiting our students' exposure to just being around other students who are neurodivergent. So we want to ensure that students get a good, that we're not. We call it in the United States that students have a right to getting the free and appropriate public education that they deserve in the least restrictive environment. So if there is a restriction that's placed on the student that is not helping them get their needs met, then that is something that we want to avoid. And in the US, it is actually illegal. So we have to educate students in an appropriate way, but in a way that's not overly restrictive. Just because they have a diagnosis doesn't mean that we limit their potential more. We are helping them rise to the challenge. And so the plan for reaching annual goals includes special education. So what are what is the plan for the student getting the specialized instructional needs that they have met? So, for example, how many minutes per day will they receive small group instruction or one-on-one instruction that's really getting at the crux of their difficulties? So if it's a student who has difficulties with decoding and encoding, right, reading and spelling, then we need to make sure that the plan for having students reach their annual goals includes very specifically, in a measurable way, what is the special education service that the school will provide. Related services has to do with things that are not directly connected to the curriculum, but that are very much adjacent to, they're related services, right? So if there's a need for speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, audiology, right? Any of those related services that are not directly academic, but that have an impact on academic achievement, that's the related services. Supplementary aids and services involves things like the supports that the teachers will receive. What is the training that the teacher will receive in order to meet the student's needs? So what are, in addition to what the student is directly getting at school in terms of special education and related services, what other supports are going to supplement that program? And then program modifications. Modifications are anything that is changing what we're teaching students. So if it's a student who just has dyslexia and no other comorbidities, we would not modify, we would accommodate. Let me talk about that for just a moment. If you can go to the next slide. Modifications, like I said, it's changing what the student is taught But for students with dyslexia and no other comorbidities, like I said, cognitive ability is not an issue. Right? It's just the decoding, the encoding, maybe there are secondary comprehension issues. But because those students, they just learn differently. It's not that they can't be taught. We would not modify, we would accommodate. Accommodations don't change what we teach students, they change how we teach students that same the same grade level expectations. And so instead of lowering the level of challenge, we are preserving the rigor, the grade level rigor. And so program modifications are a part of, you saw on the previous slide, program modifications are a part of an effective individualized education program when they're put in place only as needed, but not when they're lowering the bar for our students, only when it is necessary for a student to achieve their potential. And so on to the next section, setting individualized learning goals. So we talked about goals being one of the critical components of an effective individualized education program. We're going to zoom in a little bit and we're going to talk about the components of effective goals. And so each goal statement would be very specific and measurable. And in order to make it specific and measurable, we would have these 4 components. The first is a condition. This is the situation, the setting, the given material where the behavior is to be performed. So given a specific situation, which is the condition, the student, right, that's where the student name comes in, will do something. That's going to be a clearly defined behavior. And so this should be a specific action that the student is going to perform when they are given the condition. It's an action, so it should be a verb. It should be something that we can observe the student did or did not do it based on the condition that they were presented with. So given a condition, the student will do something, right? The clearly defined behavior at some criteria of performance. So some level where the student should demonstrate mastery, whether it's the number of times the student must demonstrate the skill, how frequently the teacher assesses the student's mastery of the skill. So this is something that couldn't be left up to interpretation. Part of what makes a specific, measurable, observable IEP goal is having a very specific condition, and then ensuring that the behavior we expect from the student is very clearly captured, and finally having a performance criteria. So that if there are 5 of us who are observing the same student do the same thing under the same condition, we won't come to 5 different conclusions about did they achieve mastery or did they not achieve mastery and why. It should be observable in the same way by everybody because it's captured in such a specific way. That's the way that we can ensure that, again, we keep that bar high, and we are only saying the student has mastered the skill if they've truly mastered the skill. And if not, that's okay. We keep working at it. But we don't want to have the interpretation of, oh, this was close enough. We don't want that to limit the student's potential for mastering that skill. And so let's talk through some examples. The examples that I'm providing are, they're 4 quick examples. I have a little over 4 minutes, so I'm going to hold myself to about 60 seconds per example. And you'll see I've broken out each example goal into these 4 components: condition, student's name, clearly defined behavior, and performance criteria. And the first goal is around phonemic awareness. So remember, in our definition of dyslexia, phonemic awareness is something that it's the foundation for literacy, for word recognition, for decoding and encoding. Phonemic awareness, being able to work with sounds, is very critical before we move to the place where we're connecting symbols to sounds, right? So in this case, the condition is that we're going to present the student, David, with sets of 3 phonemes that combine to make target words. So we're going to say, David, I'm going to give you 3 sounds: ch, ah, Now, what do we want David to do? We want David to accurately blend the sets of phonemes and pronounce each target word. So for this example, this set of 3 phonemes, ch, at, we want David to say what? Chat. If he does it once, that's great. Has he mastered the goal? No. Why not? Because 95% accuracy in 4 out of 5 trials. So just because he did it once, that's great, but it's not good enough. It's not enough to tell us that he's mastered the skill. And so we might give him 20 such examples, right? Over the course of 8 to 10 minutes, we might give him several examples, and out of 20 sets of phonemes, if he gets 19 correct, right, 1 error, then that's 95% accuracy. If he gets 1 wrong out of 20, I can confidently say he's mastered that skill. If he had gotten 15 or 12, we have more work to do. That's not a strong enough foundation for the phonics work, where we connect those sounds, those phonemes, to letters, right? And so you see here the condition, the student name, the behavior, and the performance criteria. This was a phonemic awareness example. Our next example is for phonics. So in this case, we are working on decoding or encoding. The condition is that I'm going to give the student, Frida, 20 phonetically regular monosyllabic words with 4 syllable types, either closed, open, vowel consonant E, or vowel team syllables. How did I come up with that? I didn't just pull it out of thin air. With this student, Frida, I would have had in her plan, the team would have together come up with the plan where this is what we want her to learn and master during the course of this next year. And so I'm going to teach Frida closed syllables, open syllables, vowel consonant E, and vowel teams. And then I'm going to know how she's progressing towards that goal by giving her 20 phonetically regular words. So these are all, if I've taught her the patterns, then she should be able to apply those. She should be able to decode or encode the words. If she's decoding the words, the presentation of those 20 phonetically regular monosyllabic words will be visual. It'll be written words, and she has to decode them. I've also got her encoding here. And so there will be other times where I will want to assess her mastery by saying the words and having her spell them. The criteria here is that we want her to have 2 or fewer errors in 4 out of 5 trials. So if I've given her 20 phonetically regular monosyllabic words, 2 or fewer errors, she should get 18, 19, or 20 of them correct. Okay, that's how I know that she has achieved mastery. Going on to our second to last example, this is for oral reading fluency. So given weekly reading passages with phonetically regular words and learned irregular words, so in other words, everything that we've taught Salim, so a passage that contains phonetically regular words and learned irregular words, the behavior is we want him to read the text aloud with 95% accuracy at a rate of 90 words per minute and with appropriate expression. So oral reading fluency has to do with reading accuracy, rate, and expression. And you see that the performance criteria hit all 3 of those components of oral reading fluency. So it doesn't just say words correct per minute, because the student should not only be reading at a certain speed, but reading those words correctly. It also doesn't say just 95% accuracy like the previous examples, because if the student is reading word by word, that's not fluent reading, right? It might be accurate, but if it's not automatic, if it's not at that rate of if it's not at a rate that is similar to how we speak, then it's going to affect comprehension, right? And then also, we can't have a student reading accurately and automatically, but with no expression, right? That is not fluent reading either. And so it also talks about appropriate expression as measured by a reading fluency rubric, which might speak to pauses, it might speak to intonation, it might speak to how to read when you get to a certain quote, right? So that those aspects of expression would be included in the rubric that measures that performance criteria. Do you see how these goals are so specific that whether it was you or you or you or me who are assessing the student, it doesn't leave it up for interpretation, right? It's a yes or a no. Was it 95% accuracy or higher or not? Was it, is it, did the student get 18 correct out of 20 or not, right? So it's very specific, measurable, and observable. The last one I'm going to show you is around comprehension. So when presented with a second grade level multi-paragraph informational text, I'm going to stop there. This would be for a student in what grade? When presented with a second grade level text. Second grade, right? So even if a student is not decoding second grade informational text independently yet, when we're talking about comprehension, we want to ensure that we're not, again, lowering the bar. We are giving students exposure to grade level text. And so when we're presenting the student with the second grade level multi-paragraph informational text, we're doing that because they're a second grader. Even if they can't read it on their own, we could present, it doesn't say when presented with the text visually necessarily. We could present it, read it to the student, or we could use text-to-speech software, right? And then they're focusing on the comprehension, right? So they're not, if we are giving them an accommodation, not a modification, an accommodation for how this text is presented, they can still focus on the comprehension skill, the second grade comprehension skill of summarizing the text in 3 to 5 sentences, whether it's verbally or in writing. The idea is that we are giving them exposure to the work of the grade level for comprehension while we are simultaneously supporting them with building their decoding skills in specially designed instruction. So we're not going to withhold the opportunity for the student to engage with grade level text, to hear it, to think about it, and to express their understanding and to do the summarizing. We're not going to limit that just because they have dyslexia. We are going to work on addressing the decoding, the encoding, and we're also going to, in the meanwhile, expose them to grade level content, because there's nothing about dyslexia that prevents students from comprehending, except perhaps if it's a secondary comprehension issue, like I mentioned. And in that case, doing this type of work is going to keep them building those comprehension muscles instead of us saying, oh, they can't decode the text yet, so we're not going to practice comprehension yet. No, we want to keep working on the language comprehension piece, and this is a goal that helps us do that. So my very last section, which is on implementation and collaboration, it's basically one main point, which is that collaboration between educators and families is crucial throughout the IEP implementation process, starting with the design of the individualized education program, all the way through communicating with families as they are engaging with teaching the student. And so some calls to action, this is my very last slide, is just first and foremost to meaningfully involve students' families in the development and implementation of the student's IEP, not just as a checkbox. Oh, we should involve the parents, so let's call them in, but we won't take their input to heart. No, meaningfully listen to and engage with the caretaker who knows their student best. Write individualized learning goals that are specific, that are measurable, and aligned to both the student's grade level standards and their present levels of performance, and finally, to provide specially designed instruction and related services aligned to the IEP goals. In other words, it's not just about drafting a perfect IEP document. That should drive the quality instruction that we provide our students at school and those meaningful communications that we have with families about what's happening at school. So I thank you for your time, and I will turn it back over.
Was it a worthy session? It was? Ah, thank you. I'm so glad that we're all happy that we actually are able to do it. We're good? May I proceed? Fantastic. Okay. So for the next speaker, ideally, it would have been a breakout session, I had mentioned. But what we will do is we're going to allow them about 5 minutes to give us just a brief recap of what it is that we're going to present, and then we can do our tea break. Is that okay? That's cool? Oh, but you need to discover your toes, friend. Yeah? We need to discover where our toes are, where our head is, where our knees are before we start pointing them in the wrong direction. True? Okay. I'd like to request Hannah and Jerry to kindly join us on stage. And I love that she's very prompt. She's already making her way. A round of applause as she makes her way. She's going to facilitate the diversity and learning differences in the TVET training. So this is going to be 5 minutes starting now.
Thank you so much. For me, I want to be very brief because yesterday I did a session. We mainly did the basic education. Today I want us to look at the TVET institutions. And before I proceed, I want to take up from where my colleague has left. There is a point she made that if you are preparing for the post-secondary goals or transition, then you have to involve the learner. And I continue it from there. Once you already know the learners you are dealing with have neurodiverse categories and needs, you have to start planning their future immediately. And with that, in addition to the IEP, we now bring on board another one we call individualized transition program. Start looking at the students. What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? From whatever strengths they have, you start doing a career analysis. What is it that they can best do following their strengths? And we majorly do the strengths, not the weaknesses. From there, continue. I'll not repeat what I said yesterday, continue. So I want to look at this one. You looked at these various kinds of learning challenges: dyslexia, dyscalculia, intellectual and cognitive disabilities, attention deficits and hyperactivity disorders, learners with processing disorders, and autism spectrum disorder. And we say for them, they face the highest barriers in the TVET institutions, mainly because of a few points I want to highlight. One, they have difficulty reading. If you can't read, then it means you can also not make your notes. Suppose the trainer is using the lecture method, then you are left out. If you are given a handout to go and read, if you cannot read, you are left out. When it comes to assessment, most of the assessments we are having in our institutions are by you read the question, you answer. You read the questions, you follow the instructions, you do the practical work. If they cannot read, will they make it? The other challenge they have is memory. I'll just be mentioning there are several disabilities, but you can just move on. The other one is the issue of memory. With the TVET institutions, you are expected to be taught today. Remember the first item you are taught today as a foundation. Whatever will be added tomorrow as another basic information. At the end of the training, you are able to connect from where you began to where you ended. If the memory is having a challenge, will you be able to go through the process comfortably? So what do? You require a lot of specialized ways of doing it to ensure the learners are able to capture. So we normally talk of, instead of trying to make them memorize, you make it a habit. Gradually, the habit becomes part of them. If you want to be making like a cake, make a cake today, same procedure tomorrow, same procedure the other day. Gradually, it is not about memory, but it has now become part of them. It's now a habit. It's not about memory. So that way, their memory will not fail them so much. Another thing they normally have is language processing issues. If you cannot process the language, and whatever instructions, whatever, everything you are being taught is in a certain language. At the end of the day, you will not make things out of what you are being trained in. So if you have that, then you have very limited vocabulary. Imagine you are learning how to do something and you cannot even have the vocabulary of that field. Then you may not really succeed. The other thing is the difficulty following instructions. The instructions that are given, and some are very technical. If you skip one step, the whole thing backfires. The other thing they have is slow learning pace and doing things. I think for all the dyslexic youths who have been here, they have clearly told us speed is a challenge. So some of the trades we have require you to be very fast to be productive. So if you have the slow pace of doing things, of even reasoning and your pace, will you make it? So we require something adapted. The other thing is attention and concentration. Due to their other conditions they have, hyperactivity, impulsivity, they may not be able to concentrate very keenly with what is happening. If they don't concentrate well, they may not get the nitty-gritties of the course they are doing. So with that, they may not really achieve. So what do we need? We need inclusive teaching and learning methodologies. Continue until we reach. Continue. 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 Now, this is what we are talking about. The inclusive teaching and learning methodologies. We want these people to participate, to enjoy what they are doing, to get engaged, to collaborate, tolerate what they are doing, and also achieve. Next. Next. So here we shall divide our teaching, the inclusive strategies into two. The inclusive teaching climate and incorporating the diverse perspectives. Next. So with the inclusive teaching strategies, one, we need an inclusive, conducive classroom. The physical environment where our learners learning. Some of the neurodivergent conditions may be distracted by light. Others, if there's something shiny in the room, that's a distraction. If the room is too dark, is also a distraction. So you need to have appropriate seating arrangements to ensure where these children are sitting is very, very ideal for them. They are doing a computer, behind them is a window. So they'll be seeing the reflection of the window behind them. That is already a great distraction. Check on that seating arrangement. Again, it's proper lighting. Some of them may have issues with their sight and also concentrating if it is not bright enough. Again, there's proper spacing in the class. Let them not be congested. They need some space to be free and all that. And then they're free from noise, especially the ones with auditory processing disorders. Then the other one, you need the conducive instructional environment, appropriate teaching language. If the trainee you are working with does not understand the language of instruction very well, you would better go to the level of even their own mother tongue, use their own mother tongue to make them understand what you are training. Because at the end of the day, here it's not about language, it's about the end product. The other thing, you use the appropriate teaching aids and the IEP. Next. Again, we have also learned that for the learners with neurodiverse conditions, putting them in a group, they peer tutor one another, teaching one another, works very well. So peer tutoring is very good, and then class-wide, and then group projects. When they do group projects, the ones that are weak in one area are supported by the ones that are okay, and vice versa. It becomes very easy for them to be able to learn. Then the other one is to have a functional curriculum, a curriculum addressing the needs of those learners. Again, do a community-based instruction. These learners may not go out to work in very unique areas. So make them work in communities or societies where they can easily fit in. If you know this person will go and do a tailoring shop in their village, and this person comes from the coast, what is the best type of dress code to teach them? The dera, the Muslim, the main one. kanzu. Yeah, teach them that one. Hiyo itamsaidia sana. Anrai kumfunza kutengeneza nini? Dress code kama ya wapi? Mboshori. Mboshori ataenda kunini kuuza wapi? The other one is the standards-based curriculum. Whatever you have as the general curriculum, modify yours to get the best out of it. And finally, the teaching methodologies. We have so many inclusive teaching methodologies. I'll not go through them. That is the inclusive classroom, the final one. So what I leave with you is neurodiverse trainees learn differently, not less. With patience, practice, and clear instructions, they can succeed in TVET. And the final one is about myself. For me, I end with introducing myself. As you can see, I am a disability consultant and advocate. I advocate in several fields of disability. I am also a founder and the CEO of Precious Future Empowerment Initiative. It's an NGO working towards disability inclusion. We really want to see everybody included, and with a special focus with the TVET institutions. We are working towards empowering TVET trainers to be able to handle learners with disabilities, and in a special way, the learners with neurodevelopmental disabilities. And finally, I'm working as a member board of directors of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. For more information, that is the website of my organization, our email, and our number. So in case you need more of the services we offer, you are welcome to contact me. Thank you.
A round of applause for Hannah. Najua amefanya marathon. Amefanya marathon sana, si ndio? Let's give her a round of applause for a job well done. Thank you very, very much. Now, our award ceremonies will be starting in 20? Yeah, in 20 minutes. So I'll give you 20 minutes kindly. Sasa unajua wamekaa hapa na siwezi rudia chenye nilikuwa nimesema. Si mnakumbuka? Simsifanye ile kitu. Yeah? It's like, Snitashout. Msichome. Sawa? Msichome. So chezeni chini, sawa? Sim show up in 20 minutes, sawa? Asanteni. So it's going to be a great time. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys in 20 minutes. So if you can exit the hall so we can do some quick arrangements and then we can meet in 20 minutes. Tea and snacks are still at the back and coffee is still being offered. So let's meet in 20 minutes. Again, I have a fantastic